Okay then. So, listen, for some days now, we've been prodding a sleeping giant. And sleeping is the operative word here. The middle class. I mean, we've seen them very vocal in the past. But today, they seem to have, gone quiet. Which surprises us because they are a very focal group in our economy, in our society. They are affected in both directions when things go well and when things go badly. They are responsible for other livelihoods. And they sit at a position that is close to leadership and decision making. So they are a group that is very, very important. Their voice is very important. We've seen how influential they've been in the past. Why are they quiet now? It's something that baffles us. We've been scratching our heads over it. We just don't know what is keeping their mouths shut. So we've been having conversations about it, trying to understand what they are thinking, where they are, whether these hardships are affecting them or not, whether there is a reason why they seem not to be commenting on what's happening in society when they are such a focal group. Now, a friend of our show, somebody we bounce ideas off very often because, of course, he's a thought leader. He is a fellow at CDD. I'm talking, of course, about Kwame Sarpong Asiedu. Will be sharing some thoughts with us on this all-important topic because, look, we need to figure it out if our society is going to see any impactful movement and change. Kwame Sarpong Asiedu joins us via Zoom. Kwame, it's always a pleasure to have you. Good morning.
Good morning, Kojo. It's always a pleasure to speak to you too.
Thank you. All right, so let's start with this, okay? I'm sure you all remember when these words were uttered.
You know the tax I pay, Osofo. Sometimes when this thing come and I see the tax that I've paid, but at the same time, I said, praise be to the Lord we serve, because it's going to build our nation. Then when my tax goes, you babies with sharp teeth, you are stealing the money and you don't want us to talk. We will talk today, we will talk tomorrow.
Many times, when men of God and moral society who should speak up become quiet when one government is in and then become very loud when another government is in, we must be seen to be balanced, to be non-partisan. We must not shout "Jansafor we're here" in one government and then go quiet in another one. We must always speak truth to whoever is in office, because it affects the lives of our congregation.
We're supposed to take it over from here.
Exactly.
Yes, so it doesn't help when some are not talking, when some are quiet, especially when we know how loud and booming their voices can be. Okay, so Kwame, these conversations have been going on now, for some days, and they've sparked quite a reaction. But we're still not getting to the crux of it. We're still not understanding what is the situation with the middle class in Ghana today. Are they fine? Are they okay? Are they not feeling the brunt of hardships like they were back when Doomsaw was a problem? When John Mahama was president? Where is the middle class? Are they okay? Are they fine? Should we be worried?
Well, Kojo, thanks. The middle class is exactly where they've been ever since this country called Ghana got independence. The truth of the matter is that sometimes apathy sets in, sometimes lethargy sets in. And it does because there is a broader conversation that has to be had as to over politicization of conversations when it comes to Ghana. And the fact that we are not actually broadening the bigger picture of what our democracy is delivering to us and the dividends thereof that we're receiving. So it made a lot of people sit on the fence because some of them think, well, if I go and talk, I'm going to be boxed that I'm either NPP or an NDC, or that I'm talking because I want a political appointment or because I want a contract and all that. And some obviously have spoken in the past and now have political appointments or contracts and therefore have gone quiet. So there's a number of things that is affecting the middle class and why they are not speaking up.
I'm wondering though, does that mean something has changed since the last time they spoke up? Because I mean, we saw how vocal they became, under Mahama when they all gathered at the if was Sutherland Children's Park and demonstrated. At that time, they decided that it was more important to speak out than to cower behind the fear of politicization and being tagged. They decided that it was more important to speak. What is the difference in circumstance between then and now, which makes them prefer to cower behind, the fear of politicization this time around?
I don't think there's a lot of circumstantial differentiation here. I think the bigger picture is the fact that, yes, in those times they went to a Sutherland Park, there was the Red Friday, there were all sorts of things. But a lot of them haven't seen the dividend. And that's why I go to the bigger picture, the dividend of their actions manifesting in their lives. For example, if you look at many parameters when it comes to our national development, be it from agriculture, be it from health, be it from education, they do not see the dividend for which they put in their sweat and toil. And sometimes it seems as if you look at some of the dividends and we've actually retrogressed. I can speak to the health information a bit later in this conversation.
Right.
So the bigger picture then becomes, is this democracy delivering for us the dividend? And do we need to bring in a lot more people to have these conversations devoid of the politicization of NDC or NPP? Because I tell you what, when the outcomes of our democratic experiment do not meet the requirements, we all suffer. The outcomes never guide and say, oh, when I'm delivering my verdict, I'll deliver it because you are NPP or you are NDC or because you didn't speak up. It delivers it to us equally. If you look at these whole bond situations and debt exchange program, it didn't single out any political party. It didn't single out any societal class. But disproportionately, the middle class have borne the brunt because they are the ones who have a bit to spare and to save and all those things. So these are the conversations that we need to start having. And the question is, how do we have these conversations?
Now, Kwame, let me just do this. So you've said, and a simple question is, have things changed?
I don't think things have changed. And that is why I said that later down the conversation, I always, obviously, I'm a fellow with CDB in health. So I would speak to the specific health picture. And the specific health picture, not just from the standpoint of what we're being told, but the standpoint of what the data says historically, right down from 1992 when we started this experiment to this point. And those are the things that we need to do.
So has our democracy delivered the dividends?
Well, if you look at it critically, and I think you're aware that there is a talk being delivered by Yawun Sako that is coming up next week,
Sure.
which would answer this question. Yeah, will try and answer this question, and there will be a debate around it by very eminent people. But you need to get an answer whether the democracy has delivered a dividend. You need to do a lot of comparison, and that is where I'd start from. So, what do I mean by comparison? You give power to somebody, the person has to make inputs into a system to get outputs that deliver the outcomes. So, historically, since 1992, we've been giving power to people. Often it's either been the NDC or the NPP. So, what happens next? What happens next is they implement their manifesto, which is also another input. And then they get things out, be it schools, be it hospitals, be it trained health professionals, be it trained lawyers. Those are the outputs. And those are supposed to then drive our society to deliver an outcome. So if it comes to health, let's say they've invested in health, they've appointed a health minister, they've invested in health, they've built hospitals, and the outcomes should be improved quality of life, improved life expectancy, improved quality adjusted health years, decreased maternal mortality, decreased infant mortality. If we look at the data, are we getting this? Just looking at it from a standpoint of health, the answer is no. And I
Okay.
can put a lot of data out today to point to the fact that the answer is no.
Should we then be concerned about our current state?
Well, yes, we should be concerned. And we should be concerned because, I mean, when you have a life expectancy increasing in a manner consistently over a period of time, and we get to a point, and after 2020, our health life expectancy has started declining, when the world life expectancy is increasing and we're being overtaken by countries who are investing less in health than we are, then yes, we need to be worried about where we are, because where's the money going? Are we investing properly? Why aren't we having the conversations? Why aren't we looking at the different indicators
Okay.
and asking questions? Because at the end of the day, we are the same people who are in the middle class, we're the same people who have the chronic diseases, and we are the same people who go to the hospitals, and we are the same people who would get the poor service, and we are the same people who would have a lower life expectancy.
And is that not the reason why we shouldn't be frustrated? We shouldn't be scared by the politicization of what we do or say in order to get the country back on track?
Yes, it is a reason why we shouldn't be scared to speak up. I, for one, never had qualms to speak up, because at the end of the day, I know that democracy should yield a positive dividend for me, and that is the premise from which I come. And I expect a lot of the middle classes to come from that premise. But you also have to know that there always has to be a fulcrum. There has to be a galvanizing point. If you look at our country historically, I come from the background of being a child on a university campus. We knew the power of our university campuses. You can talk of the Legon Observer and all those things. If you lived on Care University campus, there was a group called Ampidre. I knew there was another group in UCC, Kodo would know them as well. These were powerful voices. We had the Ghana Bar Association, we had the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, we had, what do you call it, the Ghana Medical Association. We had a lot of associations that spoke up, they demonstrated. We had the Catholic Standard. They were newspapers that when it came out, they were thought leaders. They galvanized the conversation. We need to get to that point again. We should stop letting the politicians drive the conversation. We need to take responsibility as professionals and drive the conversation from the middle. We shouldn't be shying away from speaking to people like yourselves. And we shouldn't be shying away from speaking out publicly, even if the things we say are provocative.
Now, you know, it's interesting you point out what will happen if the middle class does not speak out. The fact that the only voice we'll hear will be the voice of government. Now, help us quantify the risk there. If all the people who are operating the front end of our economy, of our society, are quiet, and the people who are political figureheads are the only ones speaking, what is the effect, what's the risk of that on our society?
Well, we all know that discerning voices prevent what's called groupthink. And we all know that groupthink results in poor outcomes, because you need diversity of opinion, you need debates, you need people to listen in, you need people to chime in, you need to pivot from time to time. If you are hearing from only the political voices, the assumption is that they are the citadel of all knowledge. Brain power is centralized with them. And that we know historically is not correct. So, what is the risk? The risk is, if you look at Ghana's life expectancy now, it's 63.8 years. We went as far as 64.7 years and we dropped backwards to 63.8 years. So let's say 64 years. What does it tell us? It tells us that for most people who retire at 60, majority pass away by their 65th birthday. What does that mean? There's no knowledge transfer because in Penifolo, that statement that was happening, in Penifolo, you see, and we need the data to answer that question. So very few are getting into the ages where they can transfer their wisdom. And there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom because wisdom comes with knowledge plus experience and a social understanding. If those people are passing away because our life expectancy is low, and those who even make it past the 65, their quality adjusted health years are low because they are spending a lot of time in hospital and other things because they have chronic diseases that our health system cannot manage. We are not benefiting from them, and constantly we find a country that is in training mode. So we train people, they work till 60, they don't transfer their knowledge back, and then unfortunately they pass away. That would augur negatively from our developmental experiment, and it would impact adversely on our ability to grow our GDP per capita. So these things are very risky.
Very real consequences of the middle class staying silent, and I'm so glad you've pointed them out.